Hopefully there's
Okay,
an
well,
echo.
yeah. So we are live here now, and Greg already blew the joke here because we haven't Greg Dakins back again this week, and the reason why is because last week the echo was so horrible nobody could understand a word that Greg was saying, even though he went through some great stuff on how to preliminarily how to set up a storefront inside of 2.0, and we're going to kind of go through that again, and then I thought, what is the real thing that people are struggling with, having troubles with, need more information on. And that was the workflows, the emails, importing contacts, all that kind of stuff. And now that is a huge topic that we could spend hours and hours and hours on. But Greg's going to go through some of the most important stuff that he's been working on. And just remember as we go through this is not everything's already in there. Not everything is working perfectly because we are in beta still on 2.0 here. They're rolling out new stuff every week, as we'll see here, especially with the import feature, which they just rolled out to everybody last week. And yeah, it's a great feature now. You can upload all your contacts from wherever. I think mostly from a CSV file, but every email auto responding system I've ever seen, you can download a CSV file. And you can download a CSV file if you have them in a Google Sheet. So everybody has access to that as technology has been around since computers were around. So just one last thing with Greg. If you don't know him, he runs the Funnel Builder Certification Program, whereas there's 18 certifications you have to have. And so he's an expert on all these things. He has to be because he did the training. So with that, I'm going to roll it.
And an
Well,
all-around great guy, and has built an amazing
yes,
amount of
and he
funnels.
does have a black eye because he was playing jujitsu the other day, and somebody whooped up on him apparently. And as I said yesterday, I
Yeah, I
said,
was
"Dude, you're
gonna.
supposed to duck," and he said, "Well, he was already on the ground when the punch
Right.
came." So,
Yes.
hard to duck when you're already on the
I
ground.
think too, I have to say, yeah, well, and I have to say, so I used to have a pilot friend, and they had this expression, time in the seat, right? Where it was like they had to log a particular amount of hours in order to get certified. And you see that in some other certifications around the world, right? But when I think about the ClickFunnels community, especially people who I would consider like time in the seat, right? And I don't just mean you take a template and you repurpose the template. Like
Yeah.
you are like from scratch building all different kinds of funnels, all different scenarios, all different clients, right? That to me is like time in the seat. And Greg, I have to say, when I think of like time in the seat guys, you know what I mean? Like in the ClickFunnels world, it's like Ben Moo, Russell, you know what I mean? I'm like, like time in the seat, meaning like all
Oh
conditions,
yeah.
all funnels, all situations, all industries, all types of clients, building for clients and not just yourself, which is a whole other time in the seat kind
Oh
of thing,
yes.
right? So like, I mean, you really, I mean, massive hours and time in the seat
Oh
for
jeez. You guys are
sure.
Well,
making me blush over
before
here. I turned red
No,
easy.
before the FBC
it's true.
program,
It's
before the
true.
what was the thing you were doing before that? Like 3 times a
Yes,
week.
I was just gonna mention that that got me the most insane amount of time in the seat. I was running a program called the Virtual Hackathons, and at one point we were going live 3 times a day, building funnels from scratch. Myself and my friend Adam Teese, amazing funnel builder as well. Another person who has all the time in the seat. Um, Between me and him, like we were logging in like sometimes 2 to 3 hours each session, multiple times a day, just going live, like huge groups of people watching as we do it, like hitting bugs as we're going and working and figuring out bugs as we're doing it live, like no pressure at all.
No.
It was crazy,
Yeah.
but so much fun.
Yeah.
Like I learned so much from doing that, and yeah, appreciate you mentioning the black eye because everyone is starting to notice it. It's like right on my eyelid. So like it's kind of like the right angle. You can't really see it, but if I
We'll have to get you a
look
pad.
and I look,
Wear it with pride. Wear it with
yeah.
pride. You worked hard for it.
I put off recording content this week, hoping like by Monday it'll go away.
No, it's
um, but yeah,
yeah.
where do you think we should start with all
Well, what was
this?
I would
In the
say the biggest
certification.
news
Sorry, go
in the
ahead.
last week is the importing of contacts. So why don't we start with the importing of
Yes.
contacts? Because I mean, frankly, if you're going to work, if you're going to send out emails, you're going to do anything else, you got to have contacts in your thing, whether you capture them in a funnel or you upload them or whatever. So why don't we start with that?
Yeah.
Because like I said, that was the coolest news.
Yeah, let's do
Hang
that.
on.
Oh, actually, want to let me share
Yeah,
my screen,
yeah.
Dan. It's fun. Last Friday, me and Dan and a few other people in the certification program kind of like it like launched as we were live, so we
Okay, you
like
should be able
tested
to
it.
share now.
Everyone watching, it was a lot of fun. All
Well, and I
right,
think
let's
too,
go.
just to like set the stage, can we just kind of bound? So I know we're talking workflows, but I think a lot of times when we think workflows are. I was talking to Susan and Dan, and there's two sides of the equation of a workflow, right? So workflow is emails and email automations, right? But then it's also contact management and like
Yes.
what's happening on the contact level. And so I think today we're focused on both sides of that equation. And would you agree with that, Greg?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like for sure emailing is what I've done the most with workflows so far, but we I've also done some basic things with contact management, like they get to X point in a workflow, tag them with this, remove this other tag. We can do some of that stuff, but I'm sure like as this continues to grow, we'll be able to do even more. But yeah, should we just jump
Yeah.
over to contacts?
Yeah. Well,
All
yeah.
right.
So the big news about the import.
All right. So in your account, if you head over to contacts and go to CSV import right here, it'll take you to this screen, which before the button wasn't even there. There was actually let's see if this still works. At one point, let me go to a different workspace here. Um, at one point, if we went to contacts and just in the URL added / it was like import or something like that. Dan, do you remember? I think it was
Yeah.
just
You
import.
showed me one time.
Hey, look, you can. Apparently, it's back. So this will be interesting, guys. I just figured this out live. I don't know. It used to just show Google Sheets, and we actually like had it working. I did it a few times. You could import through Google Sheet. Looks like we have some other importing features here
Mm.
coming. I don't get in trouble for what I
Yeah,
just
you
did.
just showed everybody the trick now. So I'll just
But if
say
we
at
go
this
to
point here, it
contacts
seems
and
that Greg
CSV
showed that to
import,
people. Don't use that because you have no idea what kind of
yeah,
trouble it might cause. It might break your workspace. So please at this point don't use what you just saw there.
yeah.
That was an
Yes, thank you, Dan. like for first minute into this, jeez. No, but this is the heart of it, right? This will get us where we need to go. And what I was trying to do, I was going to say, like, we used to be able to do a Google Sheet, so we know for sure that's probably in the works, and there's more coming, obviously, based on what we just saw. I'm sure if we had continued clicking anyways, we probably would have hit some error pages. But for right now, we can do CSV files. And like Dan said earlier, like you go to ClickFunnels Classic, export your contacts. You go to MailChimp, export your contacts. Almost anywhere you go, export your contacts, you're probably going to get it in a CSV spreadsheet. So you can, download those from wherever you need to get your contacts from, or there's a little sample sheet here you can download, and it will give you this with a few just sample contacts inside of here. So each column in our spreadsheet here is something we can map to a contact inside of ClickFunnels 2.0. And actually, at one of the steps in the sort of importing process, you'll see there's even more. So right now it has phone number, time zone, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, website, data head, last activity, a whole bunch of stuff, right? Most of the time, me personally, I'm not like importing their Facebook URL, but maybe it might be useful at some points. But let's do one that's a little more simpler here. Let's just do email, first name, last name, and phone number. Okay.
And we don't have the permissions to just, so this goes back to my like contacts at the other side of the equation, right? So right now we don't really have a good understanding of the APIs that are available on the contact record. So for
Right.
now, we couldn't like
Yes.
go in and add fields up atop, right, in order to write into the contact database.
So we can't add any custom ones, but at one of the steps in the uploading process here, we'll get a good look at like some of like the default ones, which is kind of cool. So let's do one here. Like let's do Andrea is cool at gmail.com.
Swap it with you and your smooth talking. I tell you what.
Okay. let's just do one contact to make this easy.
Now,
Let's
now,
save
Greg, what
this.
was the one thing that we found out the other day that I thought was the coolest thing? It was actually Carlos's idea. Is
Yeah.
Greg put in
Actually, let's go back. Let's not save this just
Greg
yet,
put in
right?
an additional column and just called it tags.
Yeah. I wanted to set this up in a way where we could go. Let's just do tags right away, actually. Um, so let's do another one. Tags. This is probably going to be the most useful one. So in 2.0, we don't have lists like we did in Classic. It's tags. And I always said this in my trainings in Classic, like your list is basically a tag. Like that's what it really is. Um, so what we can actually do once we start mapping fields, there'll be a drop down and it'll show like all the sort of default fields of a contact in the profile of a contact, which is going to be helpful for once we start sending more data into ClickFunnels 2.0 and using the API and all that. And one of them on there was actually tags, which is amazing because, if I have a list of 5,000 people, I don't want to just probably upload them to my account. They might some of them might be associated with a certain product or a certain funnel or, whatever it is. I want to have segmentation for my contacts. So let's just say, one of my tags for Andrea was FBC buyer, and then another one was 2CCX buyer. Right? That makes sense as a tag
When
for a
we did this
contact in
the
my
other
account that I'm
day,
trying to
when we did this the
manage.
other day, did you put the comma delimited tags there, or did we
Yes,
upload, or did we make
right
that
here.
part of
Yep.
the upload process? I thought you did it within the upload process.
No, I did it right here. So each tag in here should be comma separated. So we'll just put is cool as another one. So now when I upload Andrea here to my account, she's going to have 3 tags: FBC buyer, 2CCX buyer, and is cool. But we have to save this. Let me save it right on my desktop to make it easy. Andrea is cool. There we go. Okay, so we click on upload file. We find that file. There it is there. And what's also useful is if you've done this already once before and you've mapped out all your fields for contact before, you can use a previous one as like your template so you don't have to map everything out all over again, which is a nice little time saver. Be honest, I did not expect that when they released this feature. And then when we get to the next step, this is where we actually map everything. So it's pulling through each column for my CSV file. And here in these dropdowns, I'm saying, okay, the data from that row on that column, it's going to be logged as this under that contact. So the minimum you would need here is email address. Each contact is based off of email address. If you don't at least have that, this isn't going to work. So the
That was
very
actually
minimum should have
that was
email.
one of the questions that I had for you too, Greg. So, and actually I have 2 questions. The first one is,
Mhm.
so we don't yet know what all the fields are that we can use, right? Like that
Well, if
doesn't
we hit
exist
this
anywhere.
drop down, we get an idea,
Okay, so we
right?
think that these might be all the fields we could potentially add.
Yeah. Like these
Okay,
are at least the defaults, right? I don't know.
got
Like
it.
once we
Okay.
start adding custom fields and stuff, I don't know what that's going to look like. But to me, these would be at least the defaults that they have right now if they're allowing us to sort of sync up to them, right?
Okay. And then I have a super geeky question for you,
Ooh.
which is probably an unfair question for you, but really important when we do CRM stuff. So one thing I've been trying to decipher. So every CRM out there has, anybody who does anything with databases, we know that every data structure has a unique identifier, right? Meaning like this is the only identifier that like makes this record unique and it can't
Right.
be replicated. It can't be duplicated. So you don't deal with like duplicate records. So in the CRM space, there's 4 techniques. There's like you have the email is the unique identifier. So it is impossible to have another person in your CRM with that same email. Like it won't allow you to do it, which is a really
Right.
good thing because you want something that is a unique identifier for your contacts, right? So that's one. Active Campaign works that way. Then the second one would be phone. Like some CRMs allow you to have a unique identifier with phone alone. You see this in like Go High Level, for instance. You could have a contact record with a phone number as a unique identifier.
Right.
And then the third option is that there's like a concatenation of variables. So like email plus, phone, for instance, would be like the combination of those is a unique identifier. And then there's the fourth one, which is like the hidden, which is like something that the system auto creates a unique identifier. That's like some gobbledygook number of the contact record, right? And then the problem then is that I could potentially run into a problem of I'm duplicating a bunch of my contact records, right? Because I have no idea what that unique identifier is,
Right.
and it could duplicate. So I'm curious if you know the
I have no
data
idea. I
structure.
know in Classic we had email and we had UID, right? Like your
Yeah.
unique identification number.
Yeah.
In 2.0, I don't know yet. And
Okay.
I'm sure we'll get more of that as, they get closer to
Well,
releasing the
I
public API.
suspect it's going to be the same as in 1.0, simply because we still have the same situation. You cannot submit a form without an email address, and the email address
Right.
is what generates the creation of the record. And if you also scroll down your list there, one of the inputs was UUID. And so that also makes me think that it's an email. Email is what generates a new contact being created, but I suspect there's also some sort of numerical number that is placed on each one of the records as well.
Yeah.
Well, and the benefit of doing just a UUID is that if we actually want to get serious about playing in the social CRM space, right, where we might only know a social handle, right, then the UDID, it starts to work really well because it allows us then to, like, pre-knowing an email, still be able to interact with the contact record and marry them up when we eventually get an email, like through the process of like from social to non.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting too, like once they start getting into the CRM side of this platform, right? You could run into those situations where you only have a phone number for someone if you're doing communication via SMS. So,
which then
I
you
think
have like merge
as
function,
that
right?
develops, that will probably have to expand, right?
Yeah. And I mean, eventually, like in any CRM, you're going to have like a dedupe and a merge process, which is technically incredibly difficult. But eventually, I'm sure it'll be on the horizon. But
Glad I don't have to figure those things out.
I know, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for indulging me. I'm just
it was a true overwrite. It would get rid of all that other information and only have this info. So I tested that. And I like added someone in with a bunch of data, and then I added them in again with like just a couple pieces of data, and it merges the contacts. It keeps the info that's already there, updates anything that is meant to be changed, and it just merges them together, makes it one contact with all the additional new information or pre-existing information if we thought it was going to get deleted. So it works. It's fine.
That's great.
In this case, I know Andrea isn't in this account, so I don't really need to check this. But honestly, in my opinion, it doesn't hurt to check that, right?
Well, and I think that like to anybody watching, because I do a lot of because I do a lot of transitions from like to active campaign, and I imagine I'll do it here. As a general practice, the health of your list is one of the single biggest contributors to email deliverability. And so you want to make sure to manage the bloat in your list. So when you are in a practice of mass adding to your list, I would actually highly recommend you to select the overwrite function in order to keep that list as clean as possible, and you don't have a bunch of like orphaned or crazy records in there.
Right. Such a great point. All right, let's click the button and see what happens. Okay. So, hey, that time in the beginning, the progress bar actually wasn't moving for me. It went through right away, and we get a little check mark. So I didn't even have to refresh to see that it went through, which is awesome. So now if I go to all contacts, oh, you don't actually see it yet. Doesn't work. Contact tags.
I know we're early on, Greg, but have you seen any patterns of the failed contacts? Like what causes it to fail?
I haven't. No. Andrea's cool. 1 of 1. Processed. Go to details. This is the first time it actually hasn't gone through for me.
And it said 8:25 a.m.
Oh, that's probably just the time zone setting on this account. Aw. Every other time it's worked for me.
Well, the law of the demo.
One time we're live.
Well,
I wonder if is it maybe because you already overrode it once before?
It's cool at gmail.com.
Do you want to do like a +1 or something? Let's see.
Oops. Opened up my ancient email there. Let's try it. +1. It may just be delayed as well. But it doesn't hurt to try again. We can do it really quick.
Well, in the middle of you guys working on that, I lost internet access again. So I know there's going to be a bit missing in the video, but
Oh, no.
what I think everybody missed on Facebook, Greg is recreating right now, where he is just mapping
Oh, okay.
CSV columns to the contact field. So I think everybody missed this part. But anybody, again, who's worked with CSV files and anything like this in the past has had to map things like this in order to move it from one platform to another.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're just saying like the data for each contact row under that specific column, like add that info to this field in my contacts. So like be careful with this. Like don't put phone number under someone's first name or something like that. That
Yeah,
would be
right. Oh my
confusing
God.
in the contact profile.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is it may just spit it out. It may crash it because it's looking for a certain format for a phone number, and you put in somebody's last name, it's not going to match up.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a question in the group from Christopher Cool,
Ooh.
which can I just give a shout out to Christopher Cool? He is doing
You
an
go
awesome
first.
job of like documenting his journey, stress testing the system, asking the question. Like you guys are doing an amazing job of supporting and answering his questions. So just like shout out all around. Really loving that exchange. So Christopher had a question that is there a way to include the tags in the export of the contacts? And we'll let us finish this one walkthrough, Christopher, and then we'll circle back to that question.
Interesting. We might have to try that first because there's either a big delay here or it's just not working right now.
Of
Well, I
course,
noticed
when we go live.
the list of the 3 that you had in there from the other day when we were doing this last
Yeah,
Friday.
they're in there.
That's in there. But what I wanted to point out in there is it had your 2 tags in there right next to your name.
Right. Yes. So I did it the other day. I think we did 3, right? We did cool, awesome, and tag 3.
Could be.
And if we go to,
I think I only saw
So
2.
does that mean that the export does include those tags?
let's try.
Okay.
Haven't even tried that. Go to contact export.
Which is interesting to me. Okay, so this might sound dumb at first, but just go with me. I
Mhm.
was like, why would I want to export? Right? Because I'm like, if I'm going to go to another system, right? Like, why do it that way? Why not just run it through a workflow? Right? Like, why not
Yeah,
just
you could do
like
that.
create a workflow that's my third party integration and then just run all my contacts through that?
Yeah, you could also do that.
I, I was like, other than if
You
you
don't
just want
want to,
a file, but
and then it's automated, right? Like if you,
yeah,
yeah, like a certain stage wanted people to be added to another platform, you don't have to go export and upload it
right,
on your own.
right.
People like to own their data as well, though. But when I
Yeah,
go to export, I actually don't have any settings for that right now. Maybe something's going on with this right
that's
now.
what I see too when I go to export. So you're not alone in that.
Saying it process though, it's so weird. Well, we might have to demo this another day.
No
Well, I
worries.
think everybody gets the idea. I've seen it work.
Yeah.
It is working for some, so there might again.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of testing and things going on here. So if you have a little bit of an issue, put in a ticket with support, and
Yeah.
or just come back to it tomorrow and do your
Yeah.
report at that point.
Yeah.
Like
Jason
we said,
did.
this was just released
Yeah.
Friday.
Jason Ecomedes, thank you to Jason. That definitely a good point. So, going back to what I was saying, and that the list health is really important for email deliverability. So you want to get into a general practice where you're always cleaning your list on a regular basis. And one of the
Right.
best steps to clean your list is to put your list through Never Bounce. And so he was saying that export in order to put that list through Never Bounce could be. I was like, oh yeah, that's good.
Great. Yeah.
Great point. Yeah.
But I'll just show you here. Like this is the one that I did when I was live with Dan on Friday. From the contact profile, you just see cool and awesome. But I uploaded it with cool, awesome, and tag 3, so it was comma separated. It also adds its own tag, so I uploaded this contact a few times just from testing. So each time I imported it, created a tag of just like the time and date that they were actually imported, which can be useful if you ever do like a mass list without any tagging. It at least would segment it that way for you. And when you're in here, you can delete tags as well if you don't want
Well,
them
what I
in there.
don't understand in that, so on one hand, I appreciate what they're thinking, because I do think like when I do, like I have a tagging schema, I'm kind of OCD about it, but I would do like original list underscore and then the source. But what I don't understand about the import is like why that wouldn't be on the activity feed. You know what I mean? As like this contact was imported on, this date. Like why the decision was to add a tag versus
Right.
versus just allowing it to be on the activity feed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Well, can you show the activity feed on here, Greg?
Well, it's right
Right
here.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's it right there.
Yeah.
Isn't it somewhere else you can find that? I thought there was like a bulk activity feed for
In your analytics.
Yeah. It's also if you go into a workflow in the top right, and then I think it's like in settings and it's like the third one down, it shows you the list of contacts, and if that's what you're thinking, Dan.
Yeah. I just thought that I'd seen it here because again, there's so many new things in here, and it's just
Right.
and not enough time in the day to go through and learn how everything works. That's the
It does
crazy
not show
part.
my upload attempt in the live view activity feed, but it does show the tags I just removed, the tags that were applied 3 days ago when I uploaded, but doesn't say just like contacts uploaded either, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely some room to grow there for sure.
Yeah.
But now another thing is, so you got the segments there on the left hand side. Why don't we show people that, because that I forget who was showing that off the other day. I don't think it was you, Greg. It was somebody else maybe.
No.
Of how to use the segments in here. So not only can you sort by tags, of course, or by the import date as we just saw, it could be by purchases that people have, memberships they happen to belong to, anything like that. So if you want to just send out a quick email to everybody who purchased a certain or in a certain course in 2.0, you can create a filter and just send it out to those people.
I don't know if I have any products. Oh, I do. Perfect. So I actually haven't used this yet, and I'm glad I understand it right away here because that helps. But basically, we can create and/or rules. So we can say, this segment of people is going to be everyone who bought product, test product, and also purchased Greg's energy drink. Or no, let's do Greg's cat food. Okay. So anyone who bought actually, let's do this. My cat food and my energy drink. They're a weirdo. They like eating cat food and drinking energy drinks. They will be included in one segment, right? Or you could say, or
Are
get
they
an or rule.
Are they both tuna flavored?
Yeah.
Cool.
The only thing with this, and again, this gets into like I think strategy question. So one of the biggest things that I see when people come to me, in order to like set up a CRM, right, is that they've been historically using systems like MailChimp is notorious for this, right, where they promote a list strategy, like a multi-list strategy. And I think if you look at any of like the big CRM strategies out there, most of them would say they would advocate for a 1 or 2 list strategy, right? Where like all of your contacts are on one list and you're managing them more based on tags or metadata and not on list, right? Especially because list gets complicated in that you want to have one data source for all of your contacts versus like, you know what I mean? Like here's a group of over here, right? And my contacts are over there, but if I delete the group, I delete the contacts, which is hugely problematic,
I could do the same thing too, right? If I had tagging set up in workflows, whenever someone bought one of these products, they would already have the tag for these. And then I could just say, on this email, everyone on this tag and everyone on this tag. And I wouldn't even need to create a segment.
Exactly. And so what segments to me feel like is it's like, this sounds so pejorative and I don't know another way to say it, but it feels like it's like a hat tilt, to the people who like are still dependent upon this like multi-list strategy because they just don't know a different way. And it's like in their minds, it is easier to think through lists than it is to think through tags. Like it is. And so it's like, to me, segments, it feels like this ability to like bridge the gap. But the problem that we're going to run into segments then is then you have to do segment management, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so let's say that I do say, Dan, to your point, send this off to anybody who bought. It's a moment in time. Like my segment is only good at the moment that I make it, you know what I mean? And then like how dynamic can those segments be, or like what's my use case of those segments, and
Well,
does it, you know what I mean?
I think what's on his screen right now answers that question.
Yeah.
In that
Say like I didn't tag these
created
people, right? I could use this to tag them.
he set up he set up the segment here that anybody who bought those two products would show up on this list. Now I suspect it's going to
Mm-hmm.
smart list would have in 1.0 that if you
Yeah.
go and you buy these two products again,
Exactly. Yeah.
the name will be automatically added to the list. So if every
And
week
then it's like,
if every week you're sending out an email to everybody who meets this criteria, as new people come in that meet that criteria, they'll be added to this list, and then they'll be receive that email every week.
yeah, it'd be worth testing, because it's also the refund situation, right? Like, does it manage taking people in and taking people out
Yeah.
versus relying on tags at the moment of the trigger event, right? Where I'm like more controlling it. I don't know. It's an interesting.
Well, that gets to a
see.
deep level within ClickFunnels. Is it set up so that if you refund somebody, you'd have to refund them through ClickFunnels?
Right.
So is that set up, or will that be set up? And then when that refund goes through, will it automatically remove that purchase event? So therefore, it would take them off this list.
Well, and historically, the answer has been no. So I know in our case, like we've had to come up with fancy tags. And again, we used Active Campaign, but like fancy tags where we remove the buyer tag and replace it with a refund tag.
Right.
So we know that like in future, because we can't technically like say they didn't purchase, because they did. They just, they are not counted as a buyer anymore because they're a refund.
I think we might be able to test this right now, because these were real purchases I did.
Hey,
with
there
a
you
real
go.
credit card.
Joseph, you asked what was the fancy word. I don't know which one you're referring to. Did I use a fancy word?
Let me open this on the other
Maybe?
screen
The one
here,
you're
just in case
referring
it
to?
shows my credit card.
I think he's referring to concatenation, which is basically the combination of two data variables.
Oh, concatenation, yeah. For those of you who don't know, Greg has his own YouTube channel. So while he's finding what he wants on the other screen there, when I saw your email address up there, reminded me. So Greg does have a YouTube channel. It goes by Funnel Chats, and he's putting a bunch of new stuff in there. He was on vacation for 2 years, but now he's back at it.
Yeah.
He was
I
just
made it a
goofing
goal
off.
to
He
get to
wasn't doing
1,000
anything.
subscribers.
He was too busy doing all those 3 hours a day calls.
That may have played a factor. All right, I'm trying to see here. I just wanted to open this up. It's not showing my credit card, so I think we're okay to show this. This is a real sale that I did. And we should actually, let me open this again in another screen. Sorry, guys. Just in case. I just don't want to cancel any credit cards today. Okay. Don't know if I can show this.
Yeah, there was a very famous example of that with Russell during one of the first Funnel Fridays years ago. He had his credit card laying on his desk, and it was in view of the camera the whole time.
Oh, yeah. So. It's like my worst nightmare. But I think I could show this. So there's transactions. See, it went through Stripe and everything. I'm going to refund this transaction. It was $1.13. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that your credit card number would show up in here if that went through Stripe.
Right, exactly.
Because ClickFunnels does not store your credit card number.
Yeah. Okay. It is showing my address and stuff. So I'll say there is another screen. It says the order is refunded.
Okay. I believe you.
And this was for Greg's energy drink. So let's go back now.
And so you did the refunding all within here because, again, we're not running directly through.
Hey, look at that.
So, Greg,
Greg,
you weren't running that directly through Stripe. You were running that through Payments AI, correct?
Yeah, like through payment. I paid 1% to Payment AI on that transaction. So it was Payment AI with the gateway set to Stripe.
Okay.
And it looks like it worked. I go to segments here, and now there's
and you're not in there.
Contacts in there. That's good, right?
Yeah, that is. That's good. Yeah. So the segments are dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. So that answers our question. Yeah. Well, yeah. So then again,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just like smart lists were in 1.0,
Right.
is that dynamically it changes the list based upon
Yeah.
the tags, the pages people visit, the courses that
Yeah.
they're involved with.
And that does save me like having a workflow for a refund. Like you can create a workflow that would trigger on a refund that would have removed that tag. So
Yeah.
this just like saves me from having to set that up.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Unless
cool.
you want to do like a save event, but yeah.
But now
Right.
go into that contact and let's see what it says for the for that purchase event. Does it show now as refunded?
It does. Yeah, that was so. What was this one? Um, let me do that on my other screen. Sorry. Let me open it in a way where it doesn't show my address, if that's possible. Okay. Yeah, we can show this. Okay. There we go. So that
Yep.
was the transaction. Now it's negative. Yeah, negative 113. Yeah. So I forget which one I refunded.
Okay, so it says approved refund
Oh, right here.
completed, and then
Right.
it says
Got it.
approved sale refunded. So,
Yeah,
all
and
right, so,
that was on the 15th that I did that. So
yeah,
it does show it on the actual one, and then it's just showing that that was completed.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. No, that's great because it still shows it as a purchase, but it doesn't show it as that they still own the product.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it would remove any access. Like say, actually, I don't know if it would.
Well, you would think then if access, let's say you had access to a
I'd have
course
to set up
based
a
upon the
workflow.
purchase of a product, that would then remove their access to the course, you would think too.
I mean, that's what happens in Clickfunnels now if a
Yeah.
refund happens.
Again,
Yeah.
we'd have to test it based upon what I just saw.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, I didn't
it's
have
not
that one
working,
connected to any
I'm
courses,
pretty sure it's
unfortunately.
intended. It's definitely intended to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's good.
that's I mean, they're building a lot of really cool stuff in here, and
Yeah.
so I know there's a lot of people who are still iffy on it. I'm one of them, but every time every time I dig deep in here, I just find all kinds of new cool stuff that I didn't know was in here before.
Well, I
Yeah.
think all of us can agree, Dan, and what we talk about a lot on Geek Out, right? That it's not if, it's when, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the conversation, is the when. Again, giving up to Christopher Cool in the group, who is actively trying to use it, and we're actively trying to use it in our Geek Out community as well. I'm curious, Greg, if just from your standpoint, we know that like the analytics aren't yet accurate, really, right? Like we've run into some issues where like the analytics aren't quite there yet,
Mhm.
but it's like that really is just the data not being right, not the functionality not necessarily working from best we can
Yeah.
decipher. Would you agree with that? About on the front
Right.
end would just be, did it open, did it not, did it
Right.
send, did it not? And it seems like in your answer is that they're right now just exposing kind of more of the data than we really need at
Yeah, so
that
that was
level.
Jimmy. That was Jimmy actually.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So yeah,
But yeah, that's what I got from Jimmy's response as well. It's just like,
Okay.
we're seeing like,
Okay, can I stop you guys for a second here?
oh
Because
yeah,
we went down for a minute, so
oh
I'll
no,
back up and just give us a recap of what you guys are talking about here.
Yeah. Okay, so I will recap in just a second, but Warren said something really cool, which I totally agree with. He said, wouldn't it be cool if tags were time stamped? And I was like, yes, sir, I agree with you,
yeah.
because I do all kinds of crazy things to try to add a timestamp onto things now. So yes, I agree with you. But so Dan, what we were talking about
Feature
is
request.
what's that? Yeah,
There's a
feature
feature
request.
request below.
Exactly. Warren, feature request and then volley for it. Yeah. So what we were talking about, Dan, is so when we're using workflows, the feedback, in order for us to know, is it working, right? Other than like we tested it ourselves. But the second thing is, like, did it actually go out? Did it send? Did they get it, right? Is the analytics, but we know the analytics aren't really accurate right now. So sometimes that's not a trustworthy feedback mechanism.
Right.
So the second one is that we looked at the contact record to see the activity feed, right? And that gives us some data. But right now, I think, and this is right where we kind of got cut off, is
Right.
it's just exposing more data points than it's like what I would say more noise than signal right now. There's just exposing too many data points on the contact activity feed. So it's hard for us to know, like, did it send? Did it not send? And so I was just asking Greg's take on that and what he looks at in the activity feed.
Yeah. And I got the same, like, I got the same kind of interpretation of what Jimmy said in that thread as well. It's like, we're being shown like so much. And it's like, really all we want to know is like, did they open? Did they click?
Right.
Like,
Right.
right.
Yeah. Which is exciting from the open API standpoint, right? Which I'm still like, man, anything I can do to get that open API, that would be amazing. But I mean, it's great. It's really promising from an API perspective because it shows all the possible endpoints
Right.
that might be available,
Exactly.
right? But from a UI and like common
Yeah.
use case, yeah, it's too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And just touch on that. I think too, like one of the big feature requests I see on the feature request board right now, and something I'm really excited about is like a direct Zapier integration. Like once we have that, we should be able to see more like of what's passing through once we can send data back into ClickFunnels through Zapier, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
super excited for that one. I would never tell everyone to go upvote that on the feature request
No,
board.
we would never tell
I would never
go
do
to the
that.
future request board and upvote that one. No, we would never, ever would we do that. Uh, what was I going to say on that point? Yeah, the other one that people really have an issue with is the custom fields. Being able to use custom fields and then be able to see them then on the
Yes.
contact itself.
Yes.
So right now, in order to see custom fields, well, I don't even know. I don't know if there is a way.
There isn't.
Well, I just posted not within ClickFunnels.
Well,
Ooh,
you did
share
your
it.
Zapier. You were showing how
Yes.
to take.
So I just posted a video on my YouTube channel. I called it "How to Connect Any Integration to ClickFunnels," just so I could have that title. But
That's awesome.
I use custom fields on an application form, and we pass like that data, even though we don't see it in the contact profile, it's still in the background being logged under that contact because we're able to actually like send that through a webhook into Zapier, and then I was zapping it onto a spreadsheet so that I had all my responses on a spreadsheet. Carlos actually just posted an awesome
Right.
video on YouTube showing how to do it without Zapier, just webhooks right to his spreadsheet, which is super cool.
Right, and I haven't watched that video yet, but I think,
Me either.
especially
No.
for me, I think that's really the best and easiest way to do it is you just upload this plugin for Google Sheets. It's totally free, I think, and then you just drop your webhook that is generated inside the Google Sheet. You drop that webhook into ClickFunnels, and it just automatically sends everything over to the Google Sheet. So that way, although you can't see the custom data inside of ClickFunnels, I guess my question is if you could see it inside of ClickFunnels, okay, great. But what are you going to do with it? You still have to do something with it to, generate a list or something. So why wouldn't you just send it all to a Google Sheet anyway?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet either.
Well, but it's
Like,
for the same
sorry,
thing that you
Carlos,
did.
but
His
the
result,
one thing that would
his result is the same as your result, which is the data ends up on a Google Sheet. So why
yeah.
would you want it on a Google Sheet? I would think so. You could look at it, you could sort it, you could pick out the people who purchased certain items or answered a
Oh,
certain way in your
yeah,
custom
a
field.
lot of times with something like that, like a high ticket application funnel, I have like maybe have like outsourced salespeople that are actually like following up those leads. I don't want to give them access to my entire ClickFunnels account. I'll just share that Google sheet with them, and then they can work off that sheet, add notes and everything. Like we'll just work off there. The one thing that I would